guys, welcome to Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today I want to talk about Cory Comperatore, or Comperatore, I guess he doesn't pronounce the E on the end. The hero that at their Trump rally that saved his family. Over the past few days, the attempt on Donald Trump has been pretty serious, and the news has been talking about it a lot. But I don't think enough coverage has been given to Cory, a gentleman who's a firefighter and somebody that dove on top of his family when the incident went down. And I'm trying to watch what I say here, because I do not want this to get removed from being a suggested video on my news feed that has been happening a lot lately. I'd like as many people as possible to see this and remember Cory. He was a firefighter. He was a gentleman that did the right thing, and his life was taken from him. Over the past, when I first started this channel, I wanted to talk about men's issues. And yeah, eventually I drifted into talking about women bad because of all the ridiculousness. And at a certain point, you realize you've kind of shared all the stats and all the bad news that's out there on divorce and relationships and the rest of it. And it's, you have to find other things to talk about. But this is actually the type of video I wish would go see and be seen by 10 million people, because it's actually guys like this that we need to celebrate and remember for doing the right thing and being a good member of his community. And he's the one that is no longer with us. And this is really the person I think we should probably be talking about as much as anybody. This is from MSNBC, or MSN, excuse me. At the Trump rally event, this gentleman lost his life while shielding his family from the gunfire. I'm going to play a video that was played by the community first, and then I'll read the story itself. Again, another selfless act by a gentleman to save his loved ones, and unfortunately, he didn't make it.
First and foremost, an attempt on the former president, Donald Trump, last night was absolutely unacceptable and tragic. Lori and I are grateful that the former president is safe and, according to him and his team, is fine. It's also important to note that last night, 3 of our fellow Pennsylvanians were shot, 1 fatally and 2 in critical condition. We lost a fellow Pennsylvanian last night, Cory Comperatore. I asked Cory's wife if it would be okay for me to share that we spoke. She said yes. She also asked that I share with all of you that Cory, a hero, that Cory dove on his family to protect them last night at this rally. Cory was the very best of us. May his memory be a blessing.
One of the things that's important to realize is that when somebody does have loss of life, and when they lose their lives laying on top of and shielding their loved ones because he was hit, and had he not taken the positioning or gotten in front of his family the way he did, maybe one of them wouldn't be with us. And it's tough to make that sacrifice. And a lot of times when asked, people say, oh, I would do X or I would do Y. But you don't really know till you're in that moment and you do something without hesitation and without thinking. That really tells you what type of a person that you are. From Bachelor, Pennsylvania, on Saturday, Cory Comperatore drove to a fairground half an hour away from his house to hear former President Donald Trump, someone he'd admired for years. Comperatore, an engineer and father of 2, had just turned 50. He and his family watched from a set of bleachers draped in the colors of the American flag as Trump began to speak. Minutes later, the sound of the gunfire ripped through the sweltering air. He didn't hesitate. He threw himself on top of his family to shield them. His wife, Helen, told Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Now you can here's some of his, he might have been a volunteer. If he's an engineer, he might have been a volunteer firefighter instead of a full-time, which again just goes to show how volunteer firefighters very rarely get paid. Most of the time, it's just helping out the community, or if they do get paid, it's minimal. It's much like a part-time job.
We're going to look at it as positive as possible. He's a great man that deserves honor and respect in the highest of high. He wouldn't want us to sit here and be sad. He would hate it. From what I've gotten knowing him and just hearing other people talk, it's the last thing he'd want. He'd want us to share the good times and think of him. Like, he wouldn't want to be thought of as a hero, but that's definitely how he should be remembered. He just is one of the guys. We don't do it for the thanks or the pat on the back, nothing like that. We do it because we love it and we have a passion for it. And that's what he did, saving his family, was because of just the love and the passion he had. I'm not one to get into politics, and it just baffles me that there's people that get so extreme into this stuff. Because I can't even fathom it, because I'm not political one way or the other. I could honestly care less about either side.
So obviously the whole firehouse that he worked at was kind of shaken up. I had to give it a few days because this upsets me probably more than I expected it to. We're in such crazy times, and we oftentimes laugh and celebrate the craziness, and we often joke, myself included, that I'm just going to go up on the hill and light a cigar and watch the world burn down. The problem with that, though, is you do lose a lot of good people along the way, and I think this is kind of a very important reminder that you're going to lose good people in any type of conflict. This one's obviously one that he didn't expect, that he was going to go to a rally and not come home. But I will give, and I don't know if they say this in the story, I haven't read all the way down through this particular article about him, but I will say this much. One thing that, love or hate Trump, I get it, he's not for everybody. But one thing he did is, while he had been nicked in the ear from the round that had gone by his head, somebody said that when he was in the hospital, and I wish I'd pulled this up, maybe I can find it, but I don't need to. I mean, you guys know I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to make something up. That when he was in the hospital, Trump asked for the number of the phone number for the families that were impacted by this, and specifically Cory's phone number, so he could call and talk to the family while he's sitting there being tended to in the hospital. That it wasn't, an after effect, or I'll get around to it. It was the first thing he did while he was still being treated. That says a lot about Trump's character. And at the same time, he instructed his staff to start a GoFundMe to raise money for the families of those affected by this event, this tragedy. And as I last checked, that GoFundMe's raised $3 million for the families of this. So even though Cory didn't make it, at least President Trump did make sure that he could do what he could do for the families. And when I see people celebrating online and wishing that the scumbag that did this hadn't missed and they were successful, what they're doing, and the scumbag Destiny on YouTube, and some of you are familiar, you've seen him out there. He was celebrating that people got ended at the event. He had no sympathy for this man or his family or others out there, and I think that bothers me more than anything. That people could celebrate the ending of another human being that went to an event because they went to an event to some place that maybe they disagreed with. And that kind of hate, when that fills your heart, when you become that kind of person, when you become that vitriolic and awful, you need to reevaluate your lives. And that's one of the things that is important to me, is as we make fun of some of the bad things and some of the crazy things that are out there, we don't necessarily have to have compassion for dumb people doing dumb things, but when something truly tragic does happen to somebody, we do need to, especially when it's not of their own volition. Something like Cory here, we do have to have some humanity, and I think a lot of us are losing that along the way. That we become numb to everything that's out there and what's going on in the world, and we start losing our humanity and our goodwill towards our fellow man. And this is a good reminder not to let that impact you and turn you into somebody that's bitter or downright evil, really, if we're going to be frank about it. The wife said she and her daughters emerged unscathed, only to discover that Comperatore had been... His name's Cory. Why are they using his last name? He'd been shot. He died a hero, she told the governor, who recounted the conversation Sunday. But for Comperatore's family, the tragedy is personal earthquake. The loss of someone who loved his children, who never missed a chance to go fishing, who spent years as a volunteer firefighter, running towards danger. Friends were following his posts on Facebook from the event. He said, "Cory was the best of us," Shapiro added during a news conference at the Butler Town Administration Building. He ordered all flags at the state government buildings to fly at half-staff in recognition of the tragedy and to honor Cory's memory. At the fire station on Sunday, an American flag dangled at half-staff in honor of Comperatore. The chief, 59-year-old Kip Johnson, said he was struggling to process that his friend of 3 decades was gone. How many afternoons had they shared in this office, listening to the fire scanner before charging out the door together? He was the first one running into a burning building, Johnson said. No one at the fire station was surprised when they learned that he'd passed trying to save his family. A real leader, Johnston said. Cory could have bragged about the lives he saved, Johnston said, but he preferred to talk about his family, including his pair of Dobermans, Kane and Ivan. Cory owned a boat, and Hayden said on weekends he could be found fishing for bass and walleye on the Allegheny River. The neighbors often rode dirt bikes together along the trails in Cook Forest State Park. Hayden, who is a Biden supporter, said that Comperatore flew a Trump flag in his yard during the last presidential election, but that never stopped the report, he said. "I know he was a Trump guy and he knew I was a Biden guy, but we never let that come between us," Hayden said. "He was a very good person, and it was a shame things happened the way they did." It's a good story. As you can tell, at some points I'm tearing up a little bit because it reminds me a lot of the community I grew up in. Little tiny upstate New York town that didn't have but 50,000 people, only 2 high schools, and you knew everybody. I mean, everybody knew everybody, because when you're in elementary school and middle school, that was kind of your very closest community. And then when you went off to I guess it would be elementary and preschool and that kind of thing. Then when you went off to middle school, you met more of the community. And then when you went off to high school, half your friends went off to the other high school, and half your friends went with you to your high school. So you knew people in both schools, and then your friendships grew even more because there were new people at your high school. So by the time it's all said and done, I came from a small town like this, and everybody. I still get phone calls of, "Hey, did you hear so-and-so? And something happened to this person. You remember this person from middle school or high school, and this happened to them." You share those stories when you come from a small town. So to have a good man like this leave such a huge hole in a community like he did is a big deal. And so even though we're focusing on the other events that happened during that day, I think it's important that we remember a good man who was good to the community, giving volunteer time to a fire department to save other people, who saved his life, who had friends and family that cared about him. And we lost another good one. Important not to forget that as things fall apart, a lot of times you can lose good people. And I just wanted to leave a little post, a little something of my thoughts, letting Cory, wherever you are, whether you're at the gates of Valhalla or at heaven's pearly gates, letting you know We appreciate who you were. We appreciate what you did for the community and saving your family, and that you were a good one. And you will be sorely missed by lots of people that love you. Guys, as always, I do have a news story coming out later on today. So if you're over here on YouTube and you want to check out my other content, I've got Odd Man Out News. Join me over there. I will have more stories about the media and other things that are going on in the world today. I'll leave it there. We'll see you guys in the next one.